Go ahead.
All right, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're live.
Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Can we have roll call, please? Oh, I said Elodia. Check that out. I'm about a year behind. Can we have roll call, Elsa?
Mrs. Marion?
I'm here.
Mrs. Ward?
Here.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Dr. Watkins?
Here.
Dr. Centers?
Here.
Thank you. And we need to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second. Been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. And I think next is, there we go. We have some information. I believe Dr. Sprout will provide a presentation on the aggregate expenditure limit.
Yes, thank you, President Berrigan, governing board members. Go ahead, Butch. We wanted to give you an update or just a summary of the aggregate expenditure limit and what we will be discussing tonight. First of all, this aggregate expenditure limit was passed by Arizona voters in 1980, and it limits the aggregate spending, in other words, the total spending of K-12 for any fiscal year in our state. So once again, it's not just what one district spends, but the aggregate of all K-12 fiscal year spending in Arizona. And a reminder, we all live on different calendars. Our fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th. As you remember, we had a late approval of the budget, June 30th, 2021, right at the last day possible, and that was signed by Governor Ducey. And we prepared our budget. Thank you to our business services team. And the governing board unanimously approved our budget for FY22 on July 8th of 2021. So what happened this year in the state, however, is you take the Levine district plus all of the other school districts in Arizona, and we exceeded this aggregate expenditure limit for the state by $1.2 billion as a state. Why is that? Many factors, including you may remember the voter-approved Proposition 301 is still in effect. It was initially, for its first 20 years, it was exempt from all the revenue generated by that was exempt from the aggregate expenditure limit. But when it was renewed 20 years later by the legislature, that exemption was not included in the bill that was passed by the legislature. So that right there added $600 million to the limit. We also had a decrease in student enrollment last year, which means a lower aggregate expenditure limit. And then also we have received more funding from the legislature, and in the restoration of cuts that occurred during the Great Recession, other things like the 20 by 2020, all increased the funding of public schools in Arizona. Those are just some of the factors that led us to the point where we are this year of being $1.2 billion over as a state. So what is the option in this situation? If the aggregate expenditure limit is exceeded, the only option is for the legislature to override the aggregate expenditure limit. And that requires a 2/3 vote of the House and a 2/3 vote of the Senate. And according to law, they must do this by March 1st. If not, then we will have to reconfigure our budget. And what does this mean? Well, of course, to the state, it means an overall $1.2 billion reduction from school district budgets. You know, the board, I want you to remember that this is money that was already given, allocated to school districts. So this is, we're not in any type of financial crisis as a state that we need this $1.2 billion. The money is there, but it'd be a $1.2 billion reduction from school district budget statewide. And for Levine specifically, it would be $8.9 million, which is roughly 17% of our budget. Obviously, this would disrupt our schools. and impact our families, students, and employees. It would, I think, erode the trust that our community has in our budgeting process, as well as the appropriation and legislative process where these funds were already approved to be spent. And obviously, this would have removing $1.2 billion from our economy would have a huge impact on our community and the state as a whole. With that, I will turn it back over to President Berrigan for a possible action that the board would like to take.
Okay, and if I could just add a couple of pieces to that, that was a great summary of the information. I just want to emphasize the fact that this is money that the legislature already approved on June 30th. So it's like it's like requiring us to ask for approval to spend this money twice, which is a bit ridiculous. I do understand that it is in the U.S. Constitution or the Arizona Constitution. However, it's a formula that was put into place into 1980, and I don't think that anyone at that time could have foreseen the fact that we had COVID last year and lost 50,000 students in the state for a year's time period. Those students are now back with us, but this aggregate expenditure limit calculation takes into consideration prior year student enrollment. So that's put us in a very, very difficult position as school districts. I will also emphasize the fact that the legislature, everyone in the state that is, in the circle of paying attention to the state budget and school district budgets, knew that the aggregate expenditure limit would have been exceeded this year. We all knew about that last year. The Office for Strategic Planning and Budget that supports the governor's office and the Joint Legislative Budget Committee that supports the legislature in making their financial calculations were very clear that we would be exceeding the aggregate expenditure limit. They calculate all of that money ahead of time when they're planning and preparing for the budget. So not only was this not a surprise to them this year, they knew about it last year. The legislature told us that they would address this issue moving into this year, that we should not worry about it. We'll go ahead and just pass this budget now so we can get it passed. And we'll deal with that early on next year. We may even deal with it before January, they said. And then the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate both said that they would come out with a joint statement and that they would likely address it in January now. And so we waited for them to do that. And that didn't happen either. As you can tell, this is an issue that I feel very passionately about, that I am extremely frustrated with, because not only do I have to deal with it for our school district here in Laveen, where my daughter and friends and family attend the schools, and it's a community I care about, but I deal with it in my job on a daily basis, continuously. And so I think that it's important that we, if everyone is in agreement, provide this joint resolution to our legislature so that they understand the position of the Laveen Elementary School District and its governing board. And I think you have all had a chance to read and review the resolution. And I'd love to hear any thoughts or comments that any of you may have on this.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys doing this. It's well written, good overview from both of you guys. I really appreciate that. I mean, looking at where our kids have been and the school district has been the last year and a half, this is outrageous that we would have to do cuts after money's already been approved. From any business sense, this makes no sense. So I appreciate all your hard work on this.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Centers. Yeah, I think from a business perspective, you can sort of see how ridiculous this is. Any other board members? Okay.
I'll just say that I'm ready to sign it. I mean, it's not a whole lot of discussion that's necessary. I think we're all in agreement. It's unfortunate that we're in this situation, but we have to go through proper protocol and get what needs to be done. But there's no question we need to sign this and get it back by our legislature.
Very good. Then I say I will call for a motion. Does anybody have a motion?
Motion.
Berrigan, I think we need to make a specific motion regarding the resolution.
The writing is super, super tiny on my phone, and it's possible that I need to go see Dr. Watkins. We've talked about this. Could somebody tell me what it says? Because I can't read it.
I think just simply a motion to approve the resolution as presented would be fine.
Okay, so Fern, you want to do that?
Yes, I move that we accept the resolution regarding the Arizona aggregate expenditure limit as presented to the board. I move that we accept that.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. And just because we're telephonically, I need to ask, anybody opposed?
No.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, everybody. I think that is it. We need a motion to adjourn the meeting. I motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Hey,
Thank you, Dr. Sprout.
Before Ms. Anderson, are you able to send us a copy of a signature?
I sent Elsa a signature, and if it doesn't work, I can certainly